everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in here at Rogers Gardens. This is our Thursday edition live stream. We're a hair bit late, so thanks for your patience. But today what we're going to be talking about is just general gardening tips of things that you should be doing in March. So this is a nice kind of interactive thing that we do with you guys. I'm going to be talking about a wide spectrum of things. And we're going to be having our spring opening really soon. Spring opening starts March 19th. If you haven't ever been to a spring opening, come in. It's amazing. The store is already just beautiful because of all the plants, but we work extra hard to make it extra special. That runs through May 9th. So it's a really, really great experience to come see. We just make the whole entire place just dripping with flowers, all kinds of really beautiful, special things that we have here in stock as well. So it's always a really great, fun experience to come in and just feel like it's springtime. Aren't we all ready to feel like it's springtime? I totally am really prepared for this. Yeah, we have Nava behind the camera here as well. We will be answering your questions at the end as well. So today's topic is preparing for spring. This is our March spring preparativeness talk that we're going to be doing today. There's so much stuff to do in March. This is when the garden really starts coming alive. So there's really great things to do to prep in the fall time here in Southern California especially. But once we hit spring, this is when we're really starting to fertilize our plants. We're really noticing all that new growth coming in. We're even getting ready for our summertime veggies. So I have a little bit of notes here because there is a lot of topics, so you'll see me referring down to my notes. We're in a kind of funny transition period right now. We're still cool, but we're also heating up. So when it comes to all of our annuals, hopefully you've already planted your cool season annuals. Those are going to be things like your violas and your pansies, those things that you're going to get in the winter time, kales, cabbages, the ornamental ones as well. So those are things that you should have planted a little bit earlier. You can still kind of plug and play things in a little bit, but a lot of that stuff should already be pretty well established. Now we're kind of transitioning into a time where we can start kind of thinking about our stuff that we plant for the summertime. So those are our warmer season things. But it's still a little bit too cold for that stuff. So you'll see some of that stuff coming in, but our nighttime temperatures are really erratic here in March. So we're kind of waiting a little bit on that. But ranunculus are a great thing to put in the garden. You can see all these beautiful ranunculus here. They're so springy and just so beautiful. And then it's a great time to start putting in your larger size foxgloves and dahlias and things like that as well. Then the other thing that we want to talk about is sweet peas. Your sweet peas should really be going. And the one thing I want to talk about with sweet peas is cutting your sweet peas. The more you cut those sweet peas and bring them inside, which is fantastic, they smell great, they last really long in a vase, but the more flowers you're going to get. So I always tell people, don't be afraid to cut all those flowers off and bring them inside to enjoy them, because you'll get more and more. If you don't cut those flowers off and they start to go to seed and they grow that tiny little pea, then they're going to slow down on their flower production. Also, this is the month for feeding everything, feeding your annuals, feeding your sweet peas. Sweet peas love to be fed, really respond well to that. So I have a bunch of my fertilizers here. These are the 4 fertilizers you really should have in your arsenal for March for sure. But the rose and flower mix for your sweet peas and your annual plants is really great. I love the down to earth, so those are all the ones that I picked. These are all the ones I use in my garden. Also berries. It's time for our new grape growth. So you should have cut your grapes back in probably December or January. You don't want to cut your grapes back when you start seeing new growth on them, because once you cut them, you'll notice they kind of bleed, so they start dripping a lot of water out of those stems. You want to cut them when they're dormant, but you'll notice if you did that right, you're getting new growth on those. So once your growth is about 1 inch or 2 long, you can start feeding them. Grapes really respond well to feeding, and this is a great time to do it. Our temperatures are warming up, so the fertilizer is really becoming available in the soil. So March is the time to start your fertilizing. Also strawberries. This is a great time for strawberries. So many great varieties. We have tons of varieties of strawberries here this year. We even have bare root strawberries. And then fertilizing. They love to be fertilized. The more fertile and evenly moist the soil is, the happier they are. But pinch off those runners. So if you start noticing something that comes out and you're wondering, maybe it's a flower, you can't really tell, but eventually it gets really long, that's a runner. And that's going to make a little baby strawberry plant at the end, but you want to wait. You don't want them to do that right now. You want them to get established. You want them to start focusing their growth on giving you all those fabulous luscious berries, right? So pinch off all those runners. That's something to really look for. All of your cane berries and your blueberries and stuff, time to start feeding. If you are doing your blueberries, make sure you're using an acid mix. This is great for that. Also, all of your gardenias, your camellias, and azaleas. This is a fantastic time for them. Your azaleas are probably flowering really nicely right now. Surprisingly, when those flowers, same thing with camellias, they're dormant. So you don't actually need to feed them yet. You want to feed them when they're done flowering. If you can avoid getting a lot of rainfall that we've been having lately into the flowers, that's even better. So even sometimes just sticking an umbrella over it to help. Because if you get a lot of water in the flower buds, sometimes they'll rot out. So that's never really fun because they never fully open. But your gardenias, this is the time to feed them. So go ahead and feed those gardenias. That acid fertilizer is great. You're going to be noticing a lot of buds and new growth coming on those. Probably now. Ours are really starting to just pop, which is really kind of cool. The other thing that I want to talk about is just this is a great time for fine-tuning your garden with all of your perennials. Fall is a great time for getting your perennials established, so all your shrubberies and things like that. But this is the time now to really look and see what's establishing, how is it growing. Trimming things to shape right now is a really good time. You don't want to hard trim anything, but you're just checking kind of how things are coming in. This is a great time to just observe and notice what you need, what blank spots you have, kind of start filling all those in. Also too, when it comes to fertilizing citrus, this is a great time to fertilize your citrus. Citrus specific fertilizer. I always want to make sure everybody's really doing that because citrus needs a lot of iron. I will notice that the citrus goes a little yellow in the winter time. That's because the iron gets really locked up in the cold soil. So now it's starting to become available. So getting that citrus fertilized right now with a citrus specific is really, really fantastic. And roses. Time to start fertilizing those roses. You're probably noticing tons of buds, maybe even some flowers. This is such a beautiful time to walk through the roses here at Rogers because everything's just starting to bud and pop and open up. And using a specific fertilizer on your roses. I use this once a month. It's really available and you'll notice new growth happening fast on those roses. And keep those cut back too. Bring those inside. The more you cut back your flowers, anything that flowers, the more flowers you're going to get. So deadhead, deadhead, deadhead. That's really, really important. That will keep your flowers lush and happy and full and really vibrant. And then you have flowers inside the house too, which is fantastic. The last thing I want to talk about is vegetables. And bulbs. Bulbs, we have all of our dahlias in. This is the time to start actually putting them in the ground. So hopefully you did some of your dahlia shopping early because those sell out super fast. You can always get the better colors and varieties in the beginning, but this is the time to finally put those in the ground. Same thing with your begonias. And then vegetables. This is a great time for vegetables. We've got full tomatoes going on. We had a tomato mania. We do that every single year here at Rogers. So getting your tomatoes in the ground. You want to start working on getting your squash, your cucumbers, your beans in the ground as well. It's a little too cool still for things like melons and corn and pumpkins and peppers. Not starting peppers from seed quite yet. You can get them greenhouse grown and grown forest like we sell them here. It's fine to put them in the ground, but I'd wait a little bit on some of those pepper seeds. And growing vegetables from seeds, super rewarding. There's so many things that are really great to do from seed, but this is a fantastic time to get started and getting prepared for our summer garden and having our veggies ready. So getting all those beds and things prepared right now as well. And then the last thing that I want to touch on is I just did my potatoes yesterday. This is time for your second round of potato planting. So those potatoes that you're planting now, And we just had some really great, interesting varieties this year. That's going to be for your fall harvest there. So that's just some general things that you can think about for March. There's a lot of stuff going on. If you ever go to our website, go to rogersgardens.com. We have a really fantastic checklist there. We do a new one every single month. It goes and outlines even in more detail most of these things here, even some other things that I didn't have time to touch on today. But make sure you check that out. We also have a great boutique online there as well, so you can do all kinds of shopping, getting ready for Easter obviously right now as well. More information about our spring opening too. Please check out our Instagram and our Facebook page. Tag your friends in these videos, and then also go check out our YouTube page. Subscribe and like that. There's such great content there. It's absolutely amazing. It goes back years and years and years, so it's really kind of neat to see all the different things that we've done here at Rogers Gardens. So once again, my name is Sarah Smith. Thank you so much for tuning in. We really appreciate it. So be well, be safe, and happy gardening.
Okay, now we're going to answer some questions.
Yay!
All right. So we have our first question is, will the peonies you advertise grow again next year here by SoCal Coast? And are they considered to be annuals?
Okay, yeah, so I didn't even touch on peonies. The Ito peony is a little bit newer, and that's the variety that we sell here because it does well here. A lot of people who come in and ask for peonies usually are coming from back east, and they're used to the woody type peonies that they sell back there, and they grow really well back there. But here it just does not get cold enough for those. So the Ito peonies is a Japanese peony that we sell, and we even sell it in the beginning when we start getting our dahlias and things like that. So it's usually at the beginning of the year, February, typically you start seeing those come in. We even sell them bare root, which is really great. So it's just the roots in the bag, you put it in the ground, it starts to come up. They're very, very delicate, and they're very, very herbaceous. So you'll get really, really beautiful flowers on that, but that will die completely down to the ground, but it will come back next year. So don't dig them out. Make sure wherever you're planting that is in an area that you remember, ooh, don't dig in that space so you're not accidentally digging that beautiful peony back. But it is not something that's going to be completely year-round here. Even back east, it's not a year-round thing, but it will slowly die down. You can trim it back a little bit as it starts to look kind of ratty, but eventually it'll die back down. You will hardly have any growth on top, especially in the beginning. Maybe as they get a little bit older, you'll have a little bit of growth year-round, but nothing significant like you will in the springtime.
Wonderful. Next question is, which fertilizer for strawberries?
Oh yeah, so I actually kind of ping pong between two of these things. These are two I have year-round in my garden all the time. So I have the all-purpose and I have the rose and flower. This one right now, when I'm starting to set flowers on my strawberries, is the one that I start to use because I want berries. I'm such a berry crazy person. So once they really start setting out some flowers, I switch to this guy. This is the one I use year-round though. When I don't have flowers on it, I use this one year-round. When I start to have flowers on it, so usually February, switch gears and I move to this guy. But you can use both. They both work well. The middle number is high on both of them anyways. This one has a 6, this one has an 8. That middle number is the number for your flower growth. So that's the way fertilizers work. You always look for that middle number for your flower growth. The first number is for your foliage growth. So you could use either one, but I want lots of berries, so I use this one during this time of year.
Okay, next question is, do peonies require full sun?
So they want not hot sun, so it really kind of depends on where you live. If you're really coastal, you can get away with more sun than if you're really, really inland. They also will not respond well to reflective sun and reflective heat. So you got to be careful of those like white cinder block walls or white stucco buildings or windows. You have to be really careful about that. So I would say after 1 o'clock, that's when they should start getting some shade. They by no means want deep, dark shade. They do need it to be pretty bright. So if you are very inland and you're getting a little bit of morning sun, but it's really bright through the rest of the day, that's great. Really coastal here, we can probably get away with full direct sunlight to about 2 o'clock or so, as long as it's not getting hot direct sun from a pool or reflective light from a window. You got to be careful of those things. It's surprising how much that affects plants, and a lot of people don't really think about it when they're planting. So always look around and think, is that going to be really bright and reflecting heat? You know, in the late afternoon, that could be an issue for my plant.
Great. Good stuff. And so another question is it best to put berries in planters?
Yeah, so getting a little deeper, especially into strawberries. Strawberries want to not ripen on the ground. So that's why we sell things like strawberry pots, where they can kind of hang over the strawberry pot. We planted a bunch in our woolly pockets. I have some both ways at home. I have them in woolly pockets at home, and I have them in the hanging pots too for the strawberry pots. If you have them planted in the ground, then you want to mulch under it with something to protect those berries from ripening on the ground. That also helps with things like pill bugs, slugs and snails too. They love those berries just as much as we do, so you have to be really careful of that. You can even go as far as putting like corrugated cardboard underneath the berries or something just to keep them off the ground. If they ripen on the ground, they tend to rot, which is no fun, because you see the big luscious berry and you're all excited, you go and pick it and the bottom side's completely rotted, or it has pill bugs in it, or it has slugs underneath it. So that's never fun. So baiting around your strawberries with an organic bait, we use Sluggo here. That works really well, will help with that problem. But then also making sure that those aren't ripening on the ground and checking. You'll be surprised. You'll look at the plant and think, oh, there's nothing there, but maybe move those leaves around a little bit and you'll find all kinds of berries underneath, all completely ready to go. I find the same thing with my blueberries. When I'm checking my blueberries, I have to kind of lean down and look up underneath because I'll miss a bunch underneath that foliage there. But blueberries do better in containers as well. I find that because I can control the acidity a little bit, and blueberries like it acidic. I always do way better with blueberries in containers. In all the places I've ever lived and in all the yards that I've ever worked in, they've been more successful in a container as well.
Another question is, how often do you fertilize your flowering spring flowers?
So I do it monthly. I always try to find a date that really works for me. So for me, I just remember the first of the month. That's when I go out and I fertilize everything. That keeps me a little bit on target for not forgetting. But plants are not, they don't have a calendar, they can't tell time. So they don't really know if you've skipped it a couple of days or if you're a little bit late, that's okay. With organics, thankfully, you can't over fertilize. If you're using synthetics, you can. So if you're too late and then you get caught back up, you can over fertilize with a synthetic. But with organics, you're not going to burn your plants with this, so you don't really have to worry too terribly much about that. And now that the nighttime temperature is getting warmer, it's becoming more available. That fertilizer really gets locked up in the soil, so that's why this is an important time to do it, because it hasn't had any fertilizer probably in a while, because usually we stop, and now it's really becoming available, especially with that citrus. You'll really notice a difference with that citrus.
Do you fertilize? How often do you fertilize your tomatoes and vegetables and all those?
So if it's in the ground, generally monthly is my kind of schedule, because as I'm watering, that fertilizer is kind of dissipating into the soil, but it's moving around in that soil and it's still generally available to the plants. If something's in a container, however, you have to fertilize a little bit more, because as you're watering, that fertilizer is getting flushed out the bottom of the hole and all that drainage water that you're seeing. But now that's completely unavailable to the plant. You can't take that up anymore. So sometimes with that, I fertilize a little bit in between, especially with my citrus. The citrus is a little bit different. If you look at the citrus fertilizing, it's 3 big times a year that you fertilize. But when I do my citrus in containers, I do a little bit in between those 3 times. So I fertilize 6 times a year with that, instead of just the 3 recommended times. So the ones in the ground, I stick with the 3 recommended times with this. But anything else, my annual plants, my tomatoes, my roses, it all gets it monthly. My bulbs as well. The bulbs do really, really well with the rose fertilizer. I use that. And then avocados do really great with the citrus fertilizer. And this is a great time to plant avocados too. They love to be planted in this beginning of springtime because they're subtropical.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for all the valuable information of our gardening tips here.
I love it. This is so fun.
Wishing everybody much success in their gardening growth. And thank you, Sarah.
Yeah, thank you so much for tuning in. If we didn't get to your questions, just put it down below. And then we'll get to those questions later for you. So if you didn't get a chance to tune in or you didn't get a chance to catch the beginning, go ahead and watch through that, and then we'll answer all those questions down below for you too. So, and again, check out our Instagram page, our Facebook page. We always post all kinds of great photos of all the new stuff coming in. So that way you're really in tune as to when is the milkweed coming in and when is all that other stuff that I'm waiting for. You'll get to see it there. The Disney roses will let you know when we've got them. So make sure you check out that page. And then always our YouTube page. Go there, subscribe to that. You'll get notifications of all the new videos and things like that too. And then you can look through that history of all that great stuff that we have there.
Wonderful. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you. Bye,
Bye
guys.
everyone.